Hello, everyone. My name is Novaxil, and it's been a while. It has only made two videos, but I have received some pretty good reviews, so that's good. So I'm going to try to make some more videos, and I don't have the time to be constantly looking for stock photos and stuff because I just want to talk to you and teach you things about the things that I like. And so I'm going to use my artistic capabilities to give you an avatar that I feel like you guys will like and that I will like too. So here we go. Really? This is the best I could do? This is what I look like? Okay, well, never been an artist, so let's roll with it. Today, we're going to be talking about how to be a good DM. Now, this is all opinion based. Some people will give you other advice compared to me, but this is what I have to say about it and my take. So let's dive right into it. First off, your first session. Now, I personally recommend doing it with your friends, people you know pretty well. The reason being, when you try to DM people you don't know too well, especially when you're really new, it can get awkward. And if they're not people who are willing to teach you and they're new as well, on top of you not knowing them, it just usually ends a disaster. On top of that, your first session doesn't have to be a smash hit. This is a learning process. DMing isn't something most people can just pick up and instantly be good at. So that's probably why you came to this video, is so you can try to figure out how to be a good DM. And if you have had a couple sessions under your belt, this video will still be relevant to you. So now that you have some friends together, you need to pick the setting. If you're going by D&D, you have an entire set of rules, all the books that cost a lot of money, and you don't have to do too much if you have a preset campaign too. However, there is a way that I recommend, and that is, and I know it sounds a little daunting at first, making some things from scratch. One of the problems that I encounter with people that use preset campaigns from the beginning is that they like to railroad sometimes later on. And railroading, to me at least, means you have a preset campaign and no matter what, you do not let your players off of that campaign. And I have a couple friends who did a preset campaign at first, and that's how they liked it, was to railroad. And me as a player and as a DM, I don't find that really fun. And a lot of the times, you'll find yourself as a DM, if you try to railroad and you don't have the right people, you will find yourself stuck because they're trying to do something you didn't plan for or you didn't account for and you don't want them to do it. But if you completely take them off of it, then sometimes your players aren't having fun. So now you're asking, how do I make something from scratch when I haven't even DM'd a first game? Well, scratch should be with an asterisk. You can base it off of something that you and your friends know. Say you all have watched a TV show or an anime, or you've all read a book. Let's take Lord of the Rings, for example. You can take a lot of the characters and world from Lord of the Rings, as long as you don't straight up copyright infringe it and publish it for money. Don't do that. You can just take some of that and use it for your campaign. If you start a Lord of the Rings campaign and everyone knew about it, you went in, you're like, hey, here's the ring. We're just going to do an adventure on you guys trying to destroy the ring. Most of the people involved will get the story. You will, if you've read a lot into it, you will know the story, but you don't have to make it the exact same. Like, you don't need Frodo. You don't need Sam. They don't need to be hobbits going and destroying the ring. You can let them make their own characters and have them come together and try to destroy the ring. That is what I recommend for your first campaign. You want to be flexible in it too. That's why I don't really like the preset, is sometimes Some people don't get very flexible with it. So I would recommend trying from scratch with an asterisk in your first D&D session and campaign. After your first campaign, you will figure out the type of DM that you want to be. Now, if you're the type that likes to be creative and you do everything on the fly and you just make up scenarios in your head instantly, that's great. You are progressing towards the DM that I like to be. However, if you like structure and you don't really like wild things that could happen and you don't like things to be extremely unrealistic, that's fine too. If you like rules and structure, then I would recommend, hey, maybe we should bring in buy some D&D books or books for role playing in general, take their structure and try to make your own campaign from it. And if that doesn't work and you find yourself unable to make a campaign because you don't have the time, which is understandable, or you just can't put in the effort, then I would recommend using preset campaigns. They can be fun, they can be easy, you don't need as much time, and if that's what's good for you, then that's perfectly fine. Now, if you're the type that is able to make scenarios and likes it and likes things to be random and give your players free access, now is the time where you actually should start making some things from scratch. You'll see a lot of D&D YouTubers making their own books and rule guides, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. You can take a set of rules originally and change them yourself, homebrew it. You don't have to push it to where it's all of your life. But changing some of the rules to help you and your friends have a better campaign is completely fine. And if you try something out and it doesn't work, that's also completely fine too. The great thing about D&D is, yes, there are a set of rules for a reality, but as the DM, you can change them. Of course, I would ask your players first for certain changes, right? Say you completely take out a class like Paladin and one of your players is a Paladin, you should probably talk to them beforehand. But if you want to change some small things, you don't have to tell everybody. So, now that we've your first session under your belt, have the DM you want to be. You can either use preset campaigns, homebrews, whatever. Let's start getting into how to make a good story or good characters. One of my biggest pet peeves for playing under some DMs is they do too much, too fast, and ruin some storylines or some characters' backstories because of it. I'll give you an example. I have a friend, he was trying DMing for the first time, while I kind of helped him along the way as a player. He gave us a great world, loved it. We had our backstories. Someone was a little fairy that was captured from a kingdom and he was wanted, and I was a Kinku birdman that had found them and was helping him. Great. We're on the run. We're enjoying ourselves. Well, that's when extremely overpowered people randomly found us, showed up at our doorstep, and tried to kidnap my little fairy friend. And it led to a turn of events that within the next 7 sessions, the biggest city on the continent just completely blew up. Now, it was fun to play at the time, but thinking about all of the storylines and how fast everything went and how little RP we got to do, it wasn't really that fun or all it could have been. There were some storylines like someone had a sick mother and he was looking for my character for help, and then just randomly he found an item that completely cured her, and that was it. And the way she was sick was from a magic man who was making her sick on purpose, and he just found an item that cured it. That, when I talked to him, I was like, hey, you can't just easily solve matters. You need to give the players something to work towards in these arcs that you give them. They need to figure it out not just it be a roll of a dice one time or them just randomly finding an item because you want them to succeed. And that leads to another big point I have. Don't be afraid to fail your players. If they're doing bad, then let them be punished from it. You don't have to kill them, right? You don't have to just murder them all. But you can't just, oh, hey, I rolled a 10 for persuasion. Does that work? And you'd be like, yeah, I guess, whatever. Don't be afraid to actually fail your players sometimes. However, don't just make everything incredibly hard. Find a happy medium that seems to be fun for everybody. Okay, we have a story. We've done our first session. We know the type of DM we want to be. And we've decided whether we're going to do a rule book or start from scratch. Now, let's make characters. Your first NPCs you're going to make. The first NPC I make in a story is a character that I want to play as myself. Makes it so I'm interested in that character from the beginning. And I usually have that character be someone that joins the party or helps the party, just to kind of give myself a little fun. Let me roleplay, like, what would I do, not knowing about all of the backstory. I really recommend it. You all should try it. It's very fun. Now, for other characters, you want to have a variety, right? I mean, you don't want to have like the same drunken bartender guy every single tavern in every single town. You know what I mean? Give some variety. You don't be afraid to give evil, scary characters either. You can have a character that scares the party and everybody hates him as long as you plan for them to hate him. I mean, even if you don't plan for them to hate him, if they hate him, that's fine. Don't just throw the character away. There are too many DMs I have seen introduce a character, the players hate them, and then they just throw him away. Make him a villain, right? Make him an antagonist of some kind. Do something with him. Don't wash through characters, even if it's a character they like. I have had a lot of DMs too just accidentally forget about characters. Make a core set of NPCs that reoccur through the story. You can make, and I'm not saying every single NPC you make has to come back, right? Nobody's going to remember Bartender 36 in Town 42 that they're like adventuring to. But if there's a character that's memorable, say like there's this shopkeep that the characters always come back to, put a little bit more time into that character. Try to flesh out some sort of backstory. Give your players something to RP with. Biggest thing that, well, I've said that a lot, but one of the biggest things I love about D&D is being able to escape reality and RP with friends. And if you cut away that, it makes D&D or role-playing in general just not as fun. And that's what we're ultimately shooting for, everyone to have fun. So now that I've given you my advice, well, beginner's level advice, because I'm sure this video would be much longer if I went into every single detail about most of the aspects of starting your DMing adventure. I would like to say, if you ever need help with DMing, just put a question in the comments. If I see it, 9 times out of 10, I will answer it with a response and some advice. On top of that, don't be afraid to ask your players for advice either. It can be awkward at times. I know. I've had DMs who say that they don't want to ask for help because they feel it's embarrassing, because they're supposed to be the leaders. But even though you are kind of like the creator of everything, doesn't mean you have to be alone. This is a fun experience that should be experienced together. If you're a new DM with new players, don't be afraid to mess up. It happens, right? A lot of people say, oh, DMing's scary. I don't want to mess up. There's too much thought that goes into it. You don't have to put that much thought into it to have a fun time. There are DMs who are able to just give their players reign over what happens as long as it's not too crazy, and everyone has fun because of it. I'm a type of DM where I like to just throw them into a world, see what they would do, and if they need help, I give it to them, but let them explore it as they wish. That is how I like to do it personally. It is very fun. And for even you advanced DMs who just go off of preset campaigns, I highly recommend just trying to make a system somewhat from scratch. Make a world from scratch. You don't have to do it with an asterisk, of course. You don't have to do it like every single detail's brand new. You could add characters from media that all of everyone else would recognize. Like if you had a D&D session and Aragon, you know, the guy that rides the dragon in the book series. If he showed up and they had all read the books, like, oh, whoa, it's Aragon, you know, a lot of new players like that. And I just want people to experience D&D and have fun. That's really all I want. And that's why I'm making this video. I'm not putting much time into it, but I just want people to stop being afraid and just try it. It is fun. It is heart racing at times and anxiety inducing, but it is so fun watching people love a story you create and characters you create as they talk about them outside of D&D or whatever you're playing. You know, it gives you and your friends something to do, especially in a world where COVID is rampaging still. You could do it online, you could do it in Discord, you can do it in person. You don't have to make figurines, you don't have to make a map. As long as you and your friends come together and use your imaginations to have a good time, then you're playing D&D. And with that, I appreciate you watching my video, Traveler. If you have any questions or anything like that about DMing, don't be afraid to put them in the comments. I will try to help you. With that, I will say goodbye because I am rambling a little bit.